1992, I moved back to Auckland from Papua New Guinea, but my children were still quite small and I wanted a part-time job. And I very quickly realised that there were very few part-time jobs available in physiotherapy, and took the first one that was coming my way, which was a job at National Women's. Why did I choose National Women's? Well, because it was a part-time job. It was reasonably close to where I lived, and they were wanting somebody to do antenatal classes, and I had done quite a bit of antenatal education classes, and so I applied for the job. My job was 2 nights a week and every alternate weekend. Now, the 2 nights a week I worked from 4 to 12:30 on an evening shift, and the physiotherapy department traditionally had an evening shift for many, many years. It even used to have an overnight physiotherapist. Now, so what do I do on an evening shift? Well, when I used to come on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I would see any babies that needed to be seen for chest physiotherapy. Then there were antenatal classes always to be done on those weekdays that I worked. After that, there was the any postnatal or post-op gynae woman with chest problems that were to be seen. There may be another round of babies to do later in the evening, and then if you had any time left over, you had to go down to delivery suite and support women in labour. I used to hate that. I did learn a huge amount about how National Women's runs, and it was good education for postnatal classes, but I can't say I was enthusiastic in going down to the labour ward and do whatever the midwives wanted us to do. And it was usually providing support to the woman. It might be massaging a back or helping a woman to breathe away through a contraction, support a distraught husband or partner and show him how to support his wife. Good training for antenatal classes. And I saw many, many babies being born, of course. On the weekends, it was every alternate Saturday and Sunday, and we would do, of course, all the chest physiotherapy for the babies, chest physiotherapy for any woman who had chest problems, whether it's postnatally, antenatally. We would do, and gynae patients. We'd also do ionizone for any infected wounds, and often we'd do microwave as well. In today's world, who have heard of doing microwave on wounds in the weekend? In 1984, the neonatal unit set up and advertised a position for a physiotherapist to be in the neonatal unit. And because I had been working in the neonatal unit and had by this time 2.5 years experience in the neonatal unit, and because I was ready to move into full-time work, I applied for that position and got it. And I was the first, what was our name then? Can't remember. I've had so many names, different names, but the senior in charge of the services in the neonatal unit at National Women's Hospital. When I first started, the main role was chest physiotherapy, and there was a lot of very severe chronic lung disease around at that time. In the early 80s, babies were ventilated for long periods of time, 6 to 8 months, and developed broncho-pulmonary dysplasia and had quite severe chronic lung disease and a lot of secretions. And invariably, if their lung disease was very severe, they would die 6 to 8 months later from core pulmonary, because they would go into right-sided heart failure, pulmonary hypertension, right-sided heart failure. Other areas that I had to develop, I learnt to develop, was neuroassessment. I was under the influence of Penny Palmer, Dr. Penny Palmer, who had just come back from doing study with Lily and Victor Dubovitz at the Hammersmith Hospital. I learned how to do what was called then the Dubovitz neuroassessment, and we would assess all babies less than 1,500 grams at some point during their stay in the hospital. And apart from the neuroassessment, learning how to assess a premature baby and then a term baby. And then the other aspect was feeding. All the feeding prior to my starting in 1984 had been done by physiotherapists. I didn't have any feeding experience in terms of abnormal feeding, but I certainly had plenty of feeding experience as a mother of 2 children. So I read widely and learnt about providing feeding opportunities for these babies. This was supported also in 1991. I went over to Australia and did a course with Suzanne Evans-Morris, who is probably one of the leading speech-language therapists in the United States on feeding disorders in babies. And it was amazing how much knowledge I had acquired through my own reading and through my own clinical reasoning, which tied in with what the experts were saying in the United States. As part of chest physiotherapy for these babies with chronic lung disease, the babies, of course, were getting smaller and smaller, and they were saving younger and younger babies. The advent of steroids at some point to help get babies off ventilators with chronic lung disease made a huge difference. And these babies survived, but if you survive chronic lung disease, they're always oxygen dependent, often for months and months, even a couple of years. The chronic lung disease was still quite severe until the introduction of surfactant, intra-bronchial or bronchial surfactant, which was introduced in the early 1990s. That made a huge difference also, because the babies didn't require quite the same amount of ventilation. Chest physiotherapy was an evolving process as well. I started off doing percussion with my hands on these babies, and in my reading I realised that there were probably more effective treatments, and particularly I read about using the face mask. It was a Lidl mask, or a Bennett's mask, which was used for resuscitation purposes. And so in 1985 I went over to Brisbane at my own expense and spent a week in the Martyr Mothers Hospital there. They had done the original research on the use of the it was Bennett's mask at that point, and chest physiotherapy. And so I spent a week there learning the techniques there and what they were doing. Because of our extensive involvement in chest physiotherapy, we started running courses, and the first of our courses was in 1986. And that's when I started teaching in these neonatal courses. I wasn't teaching recipes, I was teaching the clinical reasoning behind everything, and everything was evidence-based with the evidence that we have at the time. We were incredibly well documented, which came to be quite a significant factor later on with the problems with the chest physiotherapy.